Based on a true story. In 1984, inside a German prison, we are introduced to a special agent named Gerd Vistler. At the time, he is conducting an interrogation, calm, cold, and methodical. He works like a machine designed to extract truth, precise and relentless. Once the interrogation ends, Vistler returns to his other role, teaching at an academy for young intelligence recruits. He trains them to read fear, to notice pauses in breathing, and to detect subtle changes in tone as signs of deception. To Vistler, life is not about emotion, it is about detection. And above all, he believes deeply in the system he serves. After one of his lectures, the head of intelligence approaches Vistler and invites him to attend a performance at a large hall. When they arrive, Vistler is informed that he has been assigned a new mission. From this moment on, he is to secretly monitor a man named Duran. This order comes directly from the minister himself, who suspects that something about Duran is not quite right. Darren is known as a state-employed writer. His job is to present national issues in a way that reflects loyalty and intellectual strength to the public. The problem is that Darren is honest. He writes what he truly sees and feels. And to the minister, that honesty is dangerous to the government's image. That is why the minister instructs the intelligence chief to place Duran under surveillance. That same evening, the minister is also present at the performance. And this is where everything begins to reveal itself. The real reason for being there is not political at all. He has come to watch Darren's wife perform on stage. Her name is Krista. At the time, Krista is a well-known theater actress, admired for her presence and beauty. What makes the minister's interest possible is the fact that Krista works under a state-owned production company. That night, the minister once again reminds the intelligence chief that the priority is to spy on Duran and his wife. It becomes clear that the minister's desire for Krista has nothing to do with love. It is about power and the belief that power allows him to take whatever he wants. This is openly displayed during a party event. As Darren and Krista dance together, the minister grows visibly jealous. He steps onto the stage, stops the music, and delivers a short speech. He thanks Darren for dedicating his life to the state. He also praises Krista for her strength and dedication in entertaining audiences through her performances. Afterward, the minister approaches them under the pretense of offering congratulations. But his intentions go further. As he speaks with Duran, standing beside Krista, he begins to invade her space and touch her from behind. Soon after, the next day arrives, and Vistler officially begins his surveillance. From morning until night, he carefully tracks Darren's routine, noting the exact times he leaves the house and when he returns. Once Vistler identifies a window when the apartment will be empty the following day, he moves quickly. He leads an intelligence team inside Darren's home and installs listening devices throughout the space, hidden behind furniture, in the ceiling, and even inside the light switches. From that moment on, every word can be heard and every sound carefully recorded. After the installation is complete, Vistler relocates to an empty storage building not far from the apartment. From there, he begins monitoring the couple. Wearing large headphones and sitting alone with a typewriter, he documents everything, knowing these reports will be delivered directly to the head of intelligence. At first, this is nothing more than an assignment. Vistler follows state procedures and stands ready to report any conversation that might threaten the government. This is the lives of others. However, day after day, nothing suspicious appears. Instead of secrets or rebellion, Vistler finds honesty. He listens to genuine laughter, thoughtful debates, and a relationship built on real affection. From his distant but intimate position, Vistler witnesses two people living as a couple, loving each other and sharing quiet struggles. At times, he even hears their moments of closeness. Everything feels ordinary. Slowly, Vistler begins to feel sympathy. He starts to wonder what could possibly be dangerous about people this sincere. As time passes and no evidence surfaces, the minister looks for another way to get closer to Krista. The only weakness that can be exploited is her dependence on calming medication to manage her anxiety. Eventually, Minister Belf orders the intelligence chief to have Krista arrested for drug misuse. During the interrogation, she is threatened with being removed from her position as a theater actress. Even her husband's career is put at risk, accused of allowing her behavior. The intelligence chief makes it clear that this decision comes directly from the minister. If she wants any exception, she must personally seek his understanding. Krista gives no response and is released, left uncertain about whether her career still exists. A few days later, as Krista returns home from theater rehearsals, the minister follows her in his car. He offers her a ride, which she initially ignores. But when he delivers a threat that frightens her, she reluctantly gets into the vehicle. Inside the car, the minister no longer hides his desire and begins to touch her. About an hour later, Vistler is in the surveillance room, when he sees the minister's car stop in front of Darren's home, with Krista inside. In an unexpected moment of conscience, Vistler decides to help. He rings the doorbell, hoping Darren will come outside and see what is happening. And he does. Darren witnesses Krista stepping out of the minister's car, her clothing loose and disheveled. After that, Krista's face looks empty, filled with disgust toward herself. Darren, however, does not react immediately. He seems unable to speak, choosing instead to sit calmly at the piano and play. Once he feels composed, he goes to the bedroom to ask her what happened. But before he can say anything, Krista asks for an embrace. That night, Darren chooses silence and continues to love. He pushes away every question and convinces himself that nothing truly painful happened in the car or before it. As a week passes, his emotions slowly settle, but the relationship no longer feels whole. Since that night, Darren never touches his wife, not even a kiss. Ironically, it is Vistler who begins to feel deep sympathy for Darren. He starts to realize that the task he is carrying out is not justice, but betrayal. A few days later, one evening, Krista prepares to leave, saying she wants to meet an old friend. Gently, Darren asks her not to go. It is in this moment that he finally reveals that he knows what has happened. Darren tries to reassure her. He believes she is a great actress and does not need to do anything beyond her craft to succeed. Her talent alone is enough. She does not need to take any other path. Listening in from afar, Vistler is emotionally affected. While he is fully focused on the recording, a colleague arrives to take over the surveillance shift. Vistler leaves the monitoring room and goes to rest at a nearby cafe. Not long after, Krista unexpectedly enters the same cafe. In Vistler's mind, this confirms his fear that she has chosen to ignore her husband's request and intends to meet Minister Belf. Moved by sympathy, Vistler approaches her, pretending to be nothing more than a fan. He praises her acting and speaks about how sincere and powerful her performances are. His intention is simple. He wants to help reinforce what Darren believes, that Krista is already exceptional and does not need to sacrifice herself for her career. But his words seem to have no effect. Krista leaves the cafe without hesitation. The next day, when Vistler returns to the surveillance room for his shift, he reads his colleague's report. At first, he feels relieved. The report states that Krista left the apartment the night before, but less than 10 minutes later, the report continues. Krista returned home, embraced her husband, and the night ended in intimacy. Soon after, one morning, Darren is seen at a funeral. The man being buried is his close friend, also a state writer. He is said to have died after doing the unthinkable. Standing there, Darren and the other writers begin to sense that something is deeply wrong. Not long after, Darren and two of his friends plan a secret operation. They decide to write an underground article exposing the high number of people who have done the unthinkable in East Germany, along with the causes that are never publicly discussed. They no longer accept a truth that only serves those in power. They know East German media will never publish such a piece, so they come up with a dangerous alternative. The article will be smuggled to Der Spiegel magazine in West Germany. If discovered, the consequences would be severe: prison at best and disappearance at worst. Once the plan is finalized, one of Darren's friends secretly brings in a special typewriter from West Germany, hidden beneath loaves of bread. They understand that using a standard typewriter would allow the state to trace the writing. At the time, typewriter analysis is among the most advanced forms of surveillance technology. Darren finally begins writing in secret, putting down everything he knows, including truths meant to stay hidden. Not even his wife is aware of it. He only writes while she is away at work. But from the attic above, Vistler hears everything. He knows Darren is preparing to release something dangerous, yet Vistler never reports it. Instead, he quietly helps. He files reports that do not match what he actually hears, fabricating details so Darren and his friends remain undetected. Even when the intelligence chief and his team sense that something illegal may be happening, Vistler lies and insists there is no suspicious activity. Vistler, once the state's most reliable interrogation machine, now chooses to protect a lie in order to save the truth. For a while, everything seems safe. Then one day, as Darren hides the typewriter beneath the floorboards, Krista unexpectedly comes home and sees it. She pretends she saw nothing and chooses not to get involved. In the end, the plan succeeds. The critical book exposing those who did the unthinkable and the reasons behind it is published in West Germany. The impact is immediate. Even the state is shaken by the release. The intelligence chief launches an investigation and summons the nation's top typewriter expert to identify the machine used. He is convinced Darren is the author, but the expert confirms that the typewriter does not match the one normally used by Darren. Refusing to give up, the intelligence chief summons Krista and threatens her relentlessly. He warns that her career as an actress will be destroyed. Every production company will blacklist her, ensuring she never works again. Strangely, instead of resisting, Krista asks if there is anything she can do to save her career. With a calm and reassuring manner, the chief asks her to be honest about whether Darren wrote the book. Without thinking, Krista confirms that Darren is the author, but claims she does not know where the typewriter is hidden. A full search is immediately carried out by state authorities. Fortunately, no evidence is found, leaving them unable to charge Darren. Still unwilling to stop, the intelligence chief turns to his final option. He summons Vistler, the best interrogator they have, and orders him to interrogate Krista by any means necessary. Vistler is given a clear ultimatum. He must make Krista reveal the location of the typewriter. If he fails, he will be dismissed from state service. Left with no choice, Vistler uses every skill he has to interrogate her. Under pressure, Krista finally gives in. She reveals everything, acting only to protect herself. As she is about to be taken home, the intelligence chief hands her medication as a so-called reward. He then orders his officers to summon Vistler. They report that Vistler has already left immediately after the interrogation. Elsewhere, Vistler is already moving faster than the authorities. He rushes to secure the typewriter, determined to protect Darren from injustice. Shortly after, Krista returns home and takes a shower. Not long later, the search team arrives. Without hesitation, the intelligence chief begins searching, heading straight for the floorboards Krista mentioned. But the typewriter is gone. In that moment, Darren looks at Krista and understands everything. He knows she was the one who revealed it. Overwhelmed by regret, shame, and the weight of her choices, Krista takes one final, tragic step. She walks into the street and throws herself into the path of an oncoming car. 2 years pass after everything that happened. One day, Darren unexpectedly meets Minister Belf again, now retired and living a quiet life. During that encounter, Darren finally asks the question that has haunted him for years. He wants to know why he, as a writer, was never monitored as strictly as others during that time. The answer comes calmly, but it cuts deep. The former minister explains that even now, if he wanted to, he could still listen to every sound coming from Darren's home. He simply chose to stop. The reason is cold and simple. Krista is gone, and without her, Darren's life is no longer considered interesting enough to watch. The words shake Darren. He returns home restless and uneasy, driven to search for the truth. That is when he makes a disturbing discovery. Listening devices have been hidden in nearly every corner of his house all along. Determined to understand what really happened, Darren visits the National Archives, where all surveillance reports are stored. He reads through the records written about his own life. What shocks him is how little they resemble reality. Important conversations have been altered, softened, or completely erased. In that moment, Darren realizes that someone within the system had been protecting him. The officer responsible is listed under the code name HGW-XX7. When Darren notices the red fingerprint stamp on the typed reports, everything becomes clear. Vistler is the one who twisted the surveillance records and saved him, even while Darren was secretly writing a work that could have destroyed his life. Darren asks for more information about HGW-XX7. The archivist explains that Vistler was dismissed 2 years earlier and now works sorting mail in a small factory. He was never honored, never recognized, never called a hero. Darren goes to find him, but he does not approach or speak to him. He watches from a distance, just long enough to see the face of the man who gave up everything to protect him. 2 years later, Vistler walks past a bookstore. In the display window is a photograph of Darren beside his latest book. Vistler steps inside, opens the book, and reads the first page. The dedication is simple. The book is dedicated to HGW-XX7. There is no conversation, no reunion, no direct acknowledgement. Vistler allows himself a quiet smile. For the first time, his sacrifice is recognized, not by the state, not by the system, but by a single human life he once chose to protect. And that is where the story ends. So the moral of the story is that sometimes the kindest, bravest thing you will ever do is sacrifice your own life in silence. Knowing the world may never thank you, but one person might live because of it.